Is the fake NYPD police era in New York City over? Most people don't understand that the police force in New York City is just a business, and it's a business scheme which is used to enrich the white majority population in New York City. They don't want crime to stop, because if crime ended, then how would they make a living? Therefore, the NYPD is a pro-crime unit, and it is not an anti-crime unit. There are around 36,000 police officers inside of New York City, and New York City has such a high crime rate. Why is there such a high crime rate inside of New York City with all of these police officers inside of New York City? My black friend had a white friend in a college fraternity, and his white friend's father was a retired NYPD officer who did 20 years on the force, and he was just sitting in a nice big house in upstate New York, and he said that the father gets up every morning to watch his big screen television and drink beers every day and does nothing at all, and he's just collecting an $80,000 check per year, and he's doing absolutely nothing. I knew a white retired NYPD police sergeant who was receiving a big retirement check, and he was also receiving a big paycheck as head of security for a corporation inside of New York City. And I also had a white friend who told me most of my family members are police officers and other city workers, and taking those civil service exams were basically like a lottery ticket for them. This business scheme is just a system that monetizes the hunting, arresting, and jailing of minorities in the biggest capitalistic city in the world. This has nothing to do with crime. This is about profiting off of the mostly black population who they kidnapped from Africa and brought to this land to capitalize off of. They ended agricultural slavery, and then they cleverly formed other forms of slavery that they classified as the crack epidemic and now the gun epidemic. What is wrong with these black people in America? Why are they always mysteriously facing some kind of hardship? They went from agricultural slavery in America to lynchings in America to Jim Crow laws in America to the crack epidemic in America to gun violence in America. When will there be a progressive or prosperous time for black people in America? All of these time periods in America for these black people involved chaining them up. They were chained up as slaves. They were chained up before they were lynched. They were chained up after they sold crack, and they were chained up after shooting other blacks. Do you really believe that criminals inside of New York City illegally attain guns on their own inside of New York City without any city, state, or federal government assistance? The criminals inside of New York City can attain a gun, but the good guys can't attain a gun? Does that make any kind of sense? There was the crack cocaine epidemic inside of New York City and other cities across America, and they claimed that they didn't know where the drugs were coming from. That's the same thing that they are saying about the guns in New York City and the rest of America today. If the American government paid Manuel Noriega hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars per year to bring crack cocaine into cities like New York City, then the American government is also funding the import of guns into the hands of criminals inside of New York City. The government creates the crime. They are the ones who create the chaos, and then they pretend by claiming ignorance and saying, we don't know where the guns are coming from, but we're gonna do everything to stop it. Mayor Eric Adams and the NYPD is claiming that they don't like the Supreme Court of the United States decision of New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Incorporated and others versus Bruin, Superintendent of New York State Police and others. But when the good guys have the gun, then everybody inside of New York City can be met at high noon. Self-defense interferes with the NYPD business scheme that is being ran inside of New York City. If the citizens have self-protection, then crime will go down, and that is a threat to the jobs of NYPD officers and politicians who are claiming that they will keep you safe in New York City. You are safe when you can protect yourself, and criminals are going after people who they believe don't have protection, which is a knife, a gun, or hand-to-hand combat self-defense skills. Criminals don't stay around when the police officers come. They run, and they run because the police officers have a gun.